yard.
You blitz all night. If they cross the line of scrimmage, I'm going to take every last one of you out.
Jokic, long pass. Harris has it, and he puts it away. Oh, what a pass. Peyton Manning again smiling.
Going deep. Oh, he's got Thomas. Goodbye. Touchdown. 63 yards, Peyton Manning.
Favre with Levens behind him. 4th and 6 for the 31. Blitz is on. Favre hit as he throws. Pass is going to be incomplete. Denver holds. Denver's going to win it. Oh, baby, they're going to win this thing. Are you kidding me?
Live from Lakewood, Colorado. Broadcasting from the Colorado Media School studios, it's Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy.
You can stand up and salute in Denver. And you got the world champions that live in your town.
And welcome all to episode 20, a special edition of Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy. This is your man Shaggy. Over on the board, we got your man Staxxx. In front of me, I got my co-producer and my executive producer, Dan Tanner. I don't want to butcher his name, but how we doing tonight, guys? How y'all doing?
I don't know how you butcher the name Dan Tanner. That's like the easiest name in the English language.
His name of his job title.
Hey, I heard you was about to call yourself Staxxx.
Yeah, I was, and I was like, oh, well, it's usually always Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy. It's never Sports with Shaggy and Staxxx.
Oh,
so,
yes. I feel you.
But getting onto some college football news, the college football season looks like it's having a very, very halt right now, as it looks like the Pac-12 has postponed all sports, and as well as trying to reschedule for the foreseeable future, which is in the spring. They said they wanted to try to do a day after January 1st. It's not looking so good. Actually, we have some sound of the Pac-12.
It's not surprising at all. I think that everybody's leading to this path. And Greg, you mentioned, why not wait? I think that is just waiting. Everyone's going to get to this decision at some point in time, whether it's today, whether it's in a couple weeks. The information has not gotten better over the last few months. And just last week, we're releasing schedules, and everyone's thinking that there might be some football played. And 5 days later, it is like 911 shut the whole thing down.
And you heard it first from ESPN. Thank you for that article or for that little piece. But like he said, it literally is like 911 shut the whole thing down. I mean, college football got shut down literally a week after the schedules got released. It gave everyone false hope that, hey, maybe we'll have a college football season. Maybe we'll be able to see our favorite teams play. Maybe not with fans in the stadiums, but we'll be able to at least get some college football action. But as of this week, no Mountain West, no Pac-12. The ACC is still holding on, and as well as the SEC is still holding on. And it seems like the thread that's holding them both on is the Big 12.
And I wouldn't say it's, a complete bad news. You can possibly see some collegiate sports in the spring, which we know is one of Colorado Media's own, Miles Dunklin, is a big fan and favor of sports being played in the spring. I'm more into the fall sport. I like the colder atmosphere. Have you ever played football in the snow?
So I've played spring football before, and obviously at a Pop Warner level, but I'm looking at the collegiate or the high school level. Are we really going to be asking these athletes? So most of them are three sport athletes that do, football, track, football, wrestling, and then, or football, basketball, wrestling, football, basketball, track. It's something. They do 3 sports. Are we really going to be asking them to cut a sport off? Or not only that, but like play a sport in the spring when you're already going to be gearing towards maybe possibly going to an NFL team or gearing towards going to a college team.
I think the multi-talented athletes that would feel the biggest steam from that is your track athletes. The football and track have a lot to do with each other. Your speedsters, and taking away track would definitely put a halt to that football development and with all that speed, so that you can implement with that comes with playing football.
And I'm going to add on, obviously, I'm going to be a little biased here, but wrestling is a huge thing. Anyone that knows that does football, knows. I mean, even Ryan Harris was talking about it on Altitude the other day. Most of these athletes have done some type of martial arts in their background. So for them to miss that, it helps with, balance. It helps with positioning. It helps with most offensive linemen with a lot of their techniques. It helps with hand fighting. It helps with and overall get your get up. I mean, you have a double leg shot. It all helps. So with them missing this stuff, it's going to be really be detrimental for their development as players as well. And it's just going to be setting up a situation where we're not going to be having maybe the best of recruiting or the best of, drafts. I mean, we've been talking about recruiting on Inside the Huddle, and we actually had to cut it today because it's with no college football going on, it's what are we going to talk about recruiting for? I mean, yeah, we could talk about it, but it's at this point beating a dead horse. We can't, what are we going to be talking about this? And then none of these players play, or none of these players are going to be able to play. They're going to be playing in the XFL. There's just, question marks upon question marks when it comes to college football this year.
Just if there's any scouts that haven't made any Instagram profiles, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of them that have made are going to start, because that's probably going to be the new wave of scouting for the next year and a half.
Or even then, are they going to do Zoom calls? Are we going to be seeing situations where they're going to be like, hey, I want you to Zoom call in this player, and I want you to do your workout while we're on a Zoom call? Are you really going to get the full, you don't even get to meet them in person? We all know how it is when you're texting a girl compared to meeting them in person. It's going to be the same way there. I mean, when you actually meet someone in person, you actually get to talk to them. You get to know their personality. You get to see how they work in and out. I mean, off of one meeting, it's not fair to judge a book by its cover, but still, it's going to be a lot harder to judge these players, and you're not going to be able to judge their personalities right off the bat off of a Zoom call or off of a Zoom conversation. So I don't know. One thing, though, that is very interesting about the Big Ten adding into a team that I fairly like, Iowa, Michigan, and Nebraska are still holding out for having the college football season, but they're trying to plan on having a non-conference football season. So we were talking about this on Inside the Huddle. Could we be seeing a situation where SEC teams are bringing in out-of-conference schools that want to play and still want to have their schedules, or ACC teams, and they're going to be setting, a Nebraska versus Alabama, or we're going to be seeing a Clemson versus, Nebraska or something like that? Are we going to be seeing situations like that? Because first of all, I don't like the chances for Nebraska in either of those games, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen. I mean, it seems like every day we're getting more news about college football, and it feels like every day it's perfumed garbage.
Well, going back to your what would you call your opinion, or where would the how would scouting happen? Could we see something with I wouldn't say an expansion, or an expansion league, like the XFL? Could we see some of these guys foregoing some of their senior years and whatnot, and so just at least show some of these scouts what they got? Some of these guys who, they were looking forward to the season, at least trying to improve their draft stock. And, without, the college football season happening, improving their draft stock wouldn't look like a realistic thing happening unless they went and played elsewhere, like the XFL. Hint, hint, could be something that, I think could produce, some guys of note. And I think, the NFL coming out today that they're giving out tryouts.
Yeah, and if you look at the XFL, it's a perfect situation. They have the perfect situation now to come up and ease up and really take NCAA's spotlight and be like, hey, we're the supplemental league for the NFL, not the NCAA. We have all these players that are getting paid that come to our league that are going to go to the NFL. I mean, the XFL wasn't that before. It was players that were, not so – they're past their prime, you could say, in the NFL, but they still wanted to play. You could see a situation now where college players are going to go to the XFL because they're still going to get paid. They're still going to want to get the money, but they still want to get to the NFL. So, go there, play for a supplemental team for 1 to 2 years. And then after that, see where it takes you. And if you, the Detroit Lions or, the Denver Broncos want you, go and sign up, a minimum contract or a, small practice squad contract and go try your, luck on their team.
What would be very interesting, though, is if, say players do go to the XFL and whatnot. Say you're Trevor Lawrence, a Trevor Lawrence kind of caliber player goes to the XFL. And now the XFL is marketing these players. Say Trevor Lawrence doesn't decide to go to the NFL, which is, probably not likely to happen. But he decides to stay in the XFL. And now you got kind of a competitor with the NFL. You know what I mean? So I doubt anything like that would happen.
So to add off onto that, the quarterback that I would think that's perfect for the XFL right now that's in college is Sam Ehlinger, that Texas quarterback. I mean, we have good tape on him right now. He's been a 3-year starter, but I feel like a lot of, as well as NFL analysts, I believe that he doesn't exactly have what it takes to become an NFL quarterback yet. But if he goes to the XFL, plays there for 1 or 2 years, develops even more, they have, coordinators in the XFL that are probably again, XFL, ex-NFL coordinators, have to put a pun on that. But I could see a situation like quarterbacks like that. They want to go there. And I mean, if they don't get drafted or they go undrafted, I mean, look at that quarterback from the CU last year, Monte Morris. Oh my God. What was this quarterback? God.
Steven Montez.
Steven Montez. I don't know why I said Monte Morris. I don't know.
You're anticipating that bubble watch segment.
No, I have the NBA pulled up right here, and I saw the NBA, and I went right to that. But anyway, Steven Montez, I mean, he went to the Chiefs undrafted last year. He's Patrick Mahomes' backup. You don't think that he wants to try to get a situation to play in the XFL?
Are we
he was a
rooting
4-year
for Steven
starter.
Montez now, or are we anti-Steven Montez? I mean, I'm a Bronco. You're a Patriot, or Tampa Bay Buccaneer, whatever you want to call yourself. Would you root for Steven Montez if you were in my position, though? Colorado guy.
I mean, you got to root for him,
rival.
But at the same time, you got to root for him to go to an XFL team. Because, I mean, if the XFL, I don't know why he didn't want to go to the XFL and give his chances to at least try to start and try to do something like that. So it's probably just because he wanted to become a backup role. He's playing as his backup for Mahomes right now. Probably a pretty nifty little job, you could say. But we're going to have to wrap it up for this segment with Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy. Catch us right after the break. We're going to touch some more NFL news. The Broncos just signed a tackle, and hopefully that fixes their tackle problem. We'll figure out who it is after the break. This is Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy.
Taking a trip over to Tibet, see the sights, climb a hill or two. But I remember, oh man, I got one guy out here who I actually know. So I give an old ringy-dingy to the Lama.
What?
The Dalai Lama, his laminescence, flowing robes, grace, bald, striking really. I says to the Lama, hey, you remember that round I caddied for you down in Shangri-La? Well, apparently some station out in Lakewood taped the whole thing. See, the Lama's a big hitter. Nailed 2 eagles in a row that day. Well, he says, what station could have possibly gotten all the way out to my sacred holy lands, the Shangri? I says it was none other than GoMileHigh.com, Lama. They got the best sports coverage in the state. The Lama actually tips me this time, 2-1. So he pretty much stiffed me again. But I got him hooked on GoMileHigh.com. So I got that going for me, which is nice.
That's great.
GoMileHigh.com.
What does it take to be on air? It's not just a personality, though it does help. It takes drive, creativity, passion, and the willingness to develop yourself and truly find what makes you special. At Go Mile High, students are given this chance to become something great. You never know. Someone you're hearing right now could be the next big thing, and you could be the first to know how it all started. So keep listening, because you never know what's next on GoMileHigh.com. If it's great radio you're looking for, then you're in the right place. Because at GoMileHigh.com, we have tons of shows discussing sports, news, politics, entertainment, community affairs, and much, much more. And don't forget, if you miss out on one of your favorite shows, you can always access our archived episodes at GoMileHigh.com on your own time.
If I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time?
Hey Colorado sports fans, you're listening to GoMileHigh.com, a student-operated station live from the Colorado Media School studios here in Belmar, giving you a different perspective on all things current.
Stop torturing yourself, man! Live in the now!
So stay tuned to see what's coming up next on GoMileHigh.com, Colorado's sports lifestyle.
Showing!
Go Mile High, your college radio for sports, movies, and games. Run by students, for students, and more.
Let's see what they can do here from the 5.
Sports news, live games, and discussions about just about everything.
Disney turning their rides in their parks into movies.
So close so many times, and to have that snatched away.
Come and join us every day for your favorite shows, only at GoMileHigh.com.
And welcome back to Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy, a part of the Be On Air Network, and you can find us on GoMileHigh.com, or you can find us on Facebook or on Twitter at GoMileHigh. Give us a like and give us a shout out on there. And you can give us a call at 303-937-6548. Let us know how we're doing, or if you have some trash talk, we're always down to trash. But like I teased before on the break, the Broncos signed a veteran left tackle / right tackle who used to be a former Buccaneer, Demir Dotson, for a 1-year deal. I'm trying to pull up the deal real quick. Worth
1 year for $3 million. And I don't know if this is really improving the Broncos line problems, or I think it's just obviously a depth move. You need someone to at least fill up these holes, and we were talking about with the XFL, could we find some young linemen if they were to have, bring the XFL back as their developmental league? Could we use that to find a lineman? So signing Dotson is, I wouldn't say a move to improve the squad, but it's definitely a depth chart decision.
It really was. I mean, a couple weeks ago, Jason Peters was open on the free agency block, and we talked about maybe should the Broncos sign him. He ended up getting picked up, and then, obviously the unfortunate news that the Broncos had with their left tackle situation, with him opting out, or left tackle, right tackle situation, with the Juwan James opting out. So it really just seems like a roster position. But I do agree with, like you said, could we be seeing a situation where some of these players, when they get drafted, do they go to the XFL like these young offensive linemen or these young players? Or we were talking on the break, could we be seeing even a situation where a Broncos homer, that guy that's been giving Broncos many problems for years, Garrett Bowles, could he be going to the XFL?
I mean, he'd be going to the XFL, but he ain't coming back. You know what I'm saying? That's the point of no return for him. No, the XFL is for guys who develop there, who starting off. If you're a 5th or 6th year guy finding yourself in the XFL to get better, I mean, I don't think you're going to get any better, man.
And during the break, we were saying out of all the 4 major sports leagues in, the United States, football's the only one that doesn't have a supplemental league, or a league that, the players go in and sit there for a year or two and go to their league. The NBA has it, the MLB has it, the NHL has it. Why doesn't the NFL have it? The only thing that they really have is college football, but that's not really a supplemental league like, the XFL could be, or the AAF, which was kind of a joke of a league the year prior or 2 years prior. But I don't see why a situation why the XFL can't do it. I mean, there's multiple players that don't get drafted, or there's multiple players that never get their time to shine on an NFL team because of a starter, or players just never get hurt. So why don't they go to the XFL, and why don't they try to prove themselves? Like, there's a legitimate concern, or there's a legitimate reason to do that right there.
So I'm reading here, and I think this might be the most, most fascinating stat about DeMar Dotson. But he is 310 pounds, standing at 6'9", and so he's 34 years old, probably much slower than on his feet than what he was in his younger days in Tampa. But come on now, you have a 6'9" guy on your front line. Who was the guy the Patriots had a few years back? About 6'8". Was it
Matt Light?
Was it Matt? He was 6'8".
Yeah, 6'8".
Oh man, and it's these guys are like third, or what would you call it, 8th wonder of the world.
So it's kind of funny that you said that. I'm gonna actually add into a Madden layer onto it, but. Back in Madden 17, you know how they always have the most feared cards, or like those, those cards. He had a most feared scary tall card, and during Halloween, his card would go from 6'9" to 7'6". So you literally had a 7'6" left tackle or right tackle out there.
Man, that's a reason why I don't like Madden. But I play it a lot for someone who doesn't like it. No, but with DeMar Dotson, would you rather have Jason Peters or DeMar Dotson? I mean, you're kind of not really. stuck in a rock and a hard place because these
a really old rock and a really old hard place.
yeah, because these are guys who are former shells of themselves. I think with the DeMar Dotson situation is going to be similar to what Ronald Leary's situation, and yet Ronald Leary had bad knees when we got him. I don't know the injury history of DeMar Dotson. I'm going to look that up between the break, but this is just a seasoned guy where you're, as we keep saying, not really improving your line, just a depth move.
It is, and it's weird. It's really weird. The Broncos have had these situations the last 3 to 4 years where 2016, that was not exactly a Super Bowl caliber team, but that was a playoff caliber team. They just couldn't get anywhere. Quarterback and offensive line play really, yielded them that year. 2017, they started off 3-1, pretty good, until fell off. Offensive line play was a struggle. Last couple of years, they've been trying to figure out that situation, and it just really seems like it's just more and more money and more effort being put into a bottomless pit that the Broncos just can't seem to figure out yet.
No, but you brought up the 2016 season. I think that was probably our best year. I mean, in recent the last 5 games of 2019 was pretty. It was the future for sure. It was what we could be getting for the future, Drew Lock. But 2016, out of all those miserable years, 2017, 2018 was probably the best year, best chance we had of making the playoffs. The Broncos finished 9-7, and there was a game against the Chargers. There were numerous games that were close, and a lot of those games had scenarios where the Broncos would have a third and short situation, and just bad line play. Trevor Siemian would get sacked for 9 or 10 yards, and you just can't do that, man. It was terrible line play, and Trevor Siemian wasn't the best quarterback by any means, but he wasn't a terrible quarterback. He didn't turn the ball over quite that much. I think in 2017 he had a horrific downfall just because the Broncos were trying to force Paxton Lynch into that starting role, and we all know how that happened. What happened there? Not good news.
I'll go off of what you said. The Broncos did have their best chance of winning since 2016, probably in this last last 5 games of 2019, but that's also based off of what's going to happen in the future. They would like to hope in Denver. But in 2016, that team, I mean, they started off 4-0. That team really was fed off their Super Bowl hangover winning-wise early on, and then they kind of fell off towards the end. I mean, they had a point in the season where they were 7-3, and they, I think, lost the last 4 out of their last 5 games.
2-4.
2-4.
The conservativeness, it just shot us in the foot. I don't know what it was, man. And we pretty much had the same team bringing back. We just didn't have a Peyton Manning. The quarterback room was drastically changed, but other than that, we pretty much had the same team.
I think the game changing, or the game that changed that season, or really solidified that season, or showed what that season was, with that game against the Titans, where you had a chance to win, where the Broncos had a chance to win, but just couldn't get the job done on
when
third
Harry
and down.
Douglas cheap-shotted Chris Harris Jr. and then Keith Talib, let him know what was good.
Forgot about that.
Oh, man. Keith Talib, man, come on.
He respects
the realest dude probably. I don't think he's playing anymore, but the realest dude ever probably to get in between the gridiron, man.
And then Steve Smith actually showed him up. Remember that one?
Oh, Steve Smith, too. Shout out Steve Smith.
Steve Smith shot him up on that Panthers versus Patriots game in 2013. Remember? Ice up, son. Ice up, son.
Hey, Steve Smith, another real one. But coming 2020, it just what has been the running trend in each one of those years, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and now coming up 2020, is it's been bad offensive line. And it doesn't seem like, you sign Garrett Bowles. It seems like you're trying to make the right decisions, but they're not panning out. They're not working out.
And those problems really veered their ugly head towards the end of the 2015 season. I mean, with that, Khalil Mack game, you have a couple other games where the Broncos couldn't really get the ball going, and they veered their ugly head then. They could, they showed that they could do good in the Patriots game. They moved the ball not exactly efficiently, but they ran the ball well against the Steelers. So it really showed and veered its ugly head the year before in 2015, and it just showed tremendously in 2016, 2017, and 2018 and 2019 because there was no quarterback to make up for bad offensive line play. I mean, you have a Peyton Manning-led team that can make up for a bad left tackle or a bad right tackle when he can go and call the line of scrimmage and set it up perfectly for the team. You don't have that yet. obviously the Broncos would like Drew Lock to develop into that, but you give them the young players right now and let them develop as
it's crazy how one or two moves in the offseason can set a franchise back 5 or 4 years. I mean, just the 2 moves of Peyton Manning retiring and Brock Osweiler not wanting to re-sign set the Broncos into where John Elway panicked. He found himself in a position to draft Paxton Lynch, who was not even close to a first-round pick. Would you call him a first-round pick? Just looking at his tape?
It's crazy in that 2016 draft is the Broncos pick Paxton Lynch, but then Dak Prescott goes in the 4th round. So it's like prior to you guys getting Drew Lock, would the Broncos want to see a situation where they drafted Dak Prescott? Like, would you rather have Dak Prescott on your quarterback over Trevor Siemian, or would you rather have him over Joe Flacco? But we're going to have to wrap it up to a break real quick. This is Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy. After the break, we're going to be getting into the NBA Bubble Watch. It's always fun.
Every day, across this country, hundreds of college radio stations take to the air, broadcasting music and programming that you won't hear anywhere else.
It's one of the last places where people can really be able to actually say what they want to say.
Without it, you wouldn't have a place for local artists to perform. Certain people need to have a fighting chance, and college radio is that place for it.
College radio changes the lives of those who are involved with it, and can change those who listen to it too.
This is where we start out, from getting all this great experience working in college radio. It makes you want to work in real radio.
College radio means finding yourself. It helped me find what I wanted to do in not only school, but in life.
So support college radio by continuing to listen to this station and supporting the students who make it happen. College radio, now, more than ever. A message brought to you by this station and the College Radio Foundation. For more information, please visit collegeradio.org.
At Chewy's, weekdays from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Fully loaded nacho car.
Nacho car?
Yeah, that's right. And it's free. You'll get chips, salsa, queso, taco, meat, and more. And don't forget to pair it with one of the signature margaritas. Only at Chewy's. Tex-Mex done right. Must be 21. Find a location near you at chewy's.com. Hurry in. 7 p.m. The trunk closes.
Colorado Media School, hands-on learning in one of the most exciting career fields out there. Internship opportunities are limitless. We have 3 on-campus radio stations, 2 TV stations, and you'll have the opportunity to participate in projects like doing play-by-play live from a sporting event or the 48-hour film project. We have after-graduation career placement assistance and financial aid for those who qualify. Check us out online at coloradomediaschool.com, on Facebook and Instagram, and CO Media School on Twitter and Snapchat. You can also call 303-937-7070.
If you have ever dreamed about being on TV or the radio, listen up. Start your broadcasting career today at the Colorado Media School. You'll have the opportunity to work with and learn from actual on-air talent that work within the Colorado media. Within a few months, you'll know how to engineer, produce, and even host your own TV/radio show. I'm a current graduate, and let me tell you, the Colorado Media School has given me opportunities and internships that have helped me take my career to the next level. So apply today at the Colorado Media School, located at 404 South Upham Street in Lakewood, or visit us at coloradomediaschool.org.
We're
This is The Bubble Watch with Santiago Staxxx Salazar, here on Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy.
7 rebounds for Jokic. Alley-oop, that's too high. Oh, it's not too high! It's not too high!
Welcome everyone back to Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy. This is the part of the show where we give you some Bubble Watch NBA update, what's going on in the bubble. And just to start it off, some bad news for a couple teams out of the bubble. A couple teams eliminated, the Pelicans and Kings, who actually happen to be playing tonight. The Pelicans, who a lot of people envisioned or wanted to see a first-round matchup of a LeBron James Los Angeles Lakers team against a Zion Williamson-led Pelicans team. But on paper, it seems nice.
In 2K, it seems nice.
It seems nice, but in reality, it's a series that ends in 4 games with Los Angeles being the favorite. But a little bit of from the Bubble Watch, something we weren't able to talk about yesterday, what I wanted to get into, and that was a little bit of some beef between the Trailblazers and Clippers.
Tell you why there's more pressure on Paul George. And by the way, Kendrick, I didn't say that Paul George, quote-unquote, disappears in the postseason. Last 4 years, he's averaged 28 twice, 27 another time, 24 another time. So I'm not going to say he disappears. But all I'm saying to you is this. In the end, Max, when you talk about Paul George, you bring up Kawhi Leonard. Here's what you miss. The fact that Kawhi Leonard was in Toronto and won the title with Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet and Serge Ibaka and those boys. Well, why can't you win it with Paul George? Because then you're going to look at Paul George and say, wait a minute, this brother delivered the chip with those.
So in case you missed it, some beef going on late in the Portland Trailblazers and Los Angeles Clippers game a couple of nights ago. This is kind of a little bit of older news. Will have some relevancy. Dame did drop 60 points today, but just to get into it, Damian Lillard missed 2 free throws down the stretch where, the Portland Trailblazers were down 117-118. He missed 2 free throws. The first free throw actually got Patrick Beverley up and started. Damian Lillard, known as a phenomenal shooter from beyond the arc and pretty much everywhere on the court.
Especially late in games.
Yeah, and, including at the charity stripe. But he missed him going 0 for 2, and those were actually his first free throw attempts of the game, which is kind of more astonishing than him missing both of them because, Damian Lillard is a guy who finds himself at the free throw line quite often. But he missed both, and it, ignited a spark in the Clippers bench to talk some trash. They were over there hitting their wrists, like, Dame Time, kind of mocking him. And they were waving at him the way Damian Lillard waved at Paul George last year, was sending him home in Oklahoma City, which, I don't know. It's kind of corny because really, like, you have a superstar on your team, Paul George. You're supposed to beat the Portland Trailblazers, Damian Lillard, and you beat them by only 5 points, 4 points?
Yeah, it comes down to a last-second field goal shot, or not field goal shot, but free throw attempts. So, and the score obviously dictates, or not, the final score wasn't even should be 5. It was ending on foul shots really. So
no, and so I mean I'm not saying I'm not a Damian Lillard fan, but I'm not a Portland Trailblazers fan. So this is I'm on kind of the fence here because I wanted to see the Clippers lose. Obviously, if the Clippers lose, it gives the Nuggets the benefit, upping them up a higher seed. And it's just always good to see Damian Lillard, the Portland Trailblazers lose. But Damian Lillard went on to Instagram after that scrimmage, and him and Paul George were actually sending shots back and forth to each other. But Damian Lillard, the one that stuck out to everyone was, keep switching teams, running from the grind. You boys are chumps. And it's funny because everyone knows Damian Lillard as that loyal guy. He's one of those dying breeds in the NBA, a Tim Duncan kind of player, Kobe Bryant kind of player, a guy who wants to play for the same franchise throughout his career. But is that going to leave a mark on his legacy if he plays in Portland his whole career and not win a championship, opposed to him going on a better team and building a super team and becoming a championship, he was throwing shots at Paul George for him switching teams from the OKC to the Clippers within, a matter of 3 years. But it raises my question though: who has more pressure now? Who is under more pressure? The Clippers, who have 2 superstars, they're obviously what would you call a super team nowadays. They're 2 guys who have teamed up, who they should be front runners if the Lakers aren't in the NBA. If the Lakers weren't in the same conference, then they would be the front runners to win this conference. Besides the Denver Nuggets, of course, we won't get into that. But they have a lot of pressure on them to even get to the conference finals. The Clippers do with the Portland Trail Blazers. Damian Lillard, a guy who is he's very firm on his loyalty to the Portland Trail Blazers team. But does he have pressure on him that proving that can he actually win in Portland?
Well, the pressure has to be on the Clippers. I mean, they built this super team, and this whole year it's always been LA versus LA. It's been the LA race. I mean, it's been 82 games that all 82 games at the Staples Center this year matter. Compared to the last couple of years, it's only been 41 games at the Staples Center that matter. All 82 this year actually matter. So it has to be the Clippers. They built this team. This team has a coach that's very well known in the NBA. Plethora of stars, a plethora of defensive talented stars. They have a great team. They're probably a top 4, top 5 team in the NBA. There has to be the pressure on them. I mean, Kawhi not as much, but definitely on Paul George, because if Paul George doesn't win this, it's going to be the same old narrative that it's been throughout his career. He can do all these amazing things in the playoffs in the regular season, but when it comes to the playoffs, you're going to get knocked out by, ironically, probably LeBron.
Yeah, PG-13 seems to turn into like a rated G movie.
Yeah,
just for kids. He doesn't seem like he ups it enough. But as we're on the topic of Damian Lillard, more relevant news, the Portland Trailblazers played the Dallas Mavericks tonight, in which Damian Lillard dropped a 60-piece, 61 points and 8 assists. Kristaps Porzingis had a pretty good night, 36 points as well as did Luka Doncic, 2 rebounds shy of a triple-double. But this win is just key of note, not because Damian Lillard scored 60 points, but because this officially moves the Portland Trailblazers into the 8th seed for now. And bad news for the Memphis Grizzlies, as it has been bad news. Seemingly it has been for an entire bubble, as they've lost Jaren Jackson with an MCL tear for the rest of the year. They now finally lose their 8th seed, which they seem like I wouldn't say it was a guaranteed spot, but they were in a good position to kind of find themselves running away with it if they were able to win 2 or 3 games. They've yet to win a game in the bubble. I'm not really big on the Memphis Grizzlies, as anybody isn't.
Yeah. So that situation, or their positioning, the 8th seed, was really theirs to lose, and they really did legitimately lost it. I mean, you could always give the reason for injury, which obviously is a big fault for it, but I'm going to take it onto their side. Look at the Trailblazers, and look who they're going to have to face in the 1st seed. That 1st seed is the Lakers. Do you want to see a Memphis team that's a young team that's on the uppity up, or do you want to see a Portland Trailblazers team that is going to give that Lakers team fits? You just saw the Lakers last night struggle to beat a Nuggets bench. I mean, the Lakers aren't the team that everyone's hyping them up to be. You want them to get the hardest, possible first-round matchup, and they got the hardest possible first-round matchup now in the Portland Trailblazers.
Okay, so I want to take that back. The Grizzlies have won 1 game in the bubble. That was on August 7th, 4 days ago, against the Oklahoma City Thunder, 92-121. Either or, the Grizzlies, they've lost almost every game by double digits. So this is, and it does have a lot of them losing, a lot of young players. They lost Justice Winslow, a guy who seems like he can play the point now. His development in Miami he's a point forward. So when you lose guys, the energy that Justin Winslow brings, Jaren Jackson, a young hopeful player for you. When you lose those guys, you're not going to get the results you hope for. But losing, I don't know how many games they play. I think 6, maybe 7. But only winning 1 of those games is not going to help your case on being a playoff team. But Portland versus Lakers first-round games or first-round series is going to be way more entertaining and way more fun, worthwhile watching than a Memphis Grizzlies versus Los Angeles.
And you heard my hot take, yesterday. Seems like more and more it's becoming a little bit more hot.
No, yeah, man. Now, switching it over, we've mentioned the Los Angeles Lakers quite a bit. And I don't know why we haven't mentioned the Denver Nuggets, because that was the 2 squads that matched up last night with the Lakers pulling it out 124, 121 on the last second Kyle Kuzma shot. But let me tell you, if the Lakers are only winning the game by 3 points against a Nuggets squad that had it looked like a summer league team out there, the Lakers are in trouble. Because the Lakers had Kuzma out there. They had Dion Waiters.
Looked like an AA unit on it for us.
Who did the Nuggets have on the floor? They had pretty much their summer team league roster out there, and they were giving the Lakers a panic attack down the stretch. And this is another game where Malone sat some of his starters. Kind of head-scratching. I'm kind of disappointed in it because I do want to see the Nuggets be a little bit more aggressive chasing that second seed. But in the long run, the Nuggets are looking at the bigger picture. What if Jamal or Jokic gets hurt in that fourth quarter? You want to preserve them for that playoff time. You want to preserve them for crunch time when it is important. Yes, you want that second seed, but you need your guys out there, and you cannot be risking their health or injury at all.
And to also look at it like a bigger picture, what if Malone's playing the seeding game? I mean, who do you want to have in that matchup? I mean, do you want to match up against the Mavericks? Do you want to match up against OKC? Do you want to match up against Utah? Do you want to match up against Houston? Like, I think we all know that no one wants to match up against Houston, and everyone wants to match up against Utah in that first round.
Looking at
OKC, I'm like, I think that's team I'm
all I know is whoever we play, the Nuggets need to get this defense intact, man. Yesterday was a high-scoring game, but I didn't realize this till going after each one of the after looking at over each of the Nuggets 6 bubble games they played. The Nuggets have given up 110-plus points in each game. The defense has been a liability in the bubble so far. Yesterday they let they had the Lakers shoot at 54%. They shot at 48% from three-point range, and that was just bad defensive rotation all around.
This is a team that has been dead last in most of these statistical categories on offense. Really show that they didn't struggle at all. That this is a team that really has been the worst team in the bubble offensively. That showed that they could do anything against the Nuggets defense. And the Nuggets definitely have to get better on defense. The Nuggets have to get better perimeter defense, especially going into the playoffs. Whoever can shoot the three efficiently in the playoffs and whoever can defend usually wins.
And it's a weird game that the Nuggets lost last night because the Nuggets shot a better field goal percentage than the Lakers did. They shot a better three-point percentage than the Lakers did, but
got out-rebounded the whole first half.
Getting out-rebounded, offensive rebounds killed Denver. There was a point where they put Dwight Howard on Nikola Jokic, and Jokic was getting, just outplayed physically. The physicality, it obviously showed that weight loss has some positive, but it also has some negatives to it, some pros and cons to that for sure. But, man, it's that defense needs to get on, man. It's the zone defense that Malone was playing yesterday, and a lot of late closeouts that led to some Laker 3 points.
It's true, and it's just going to be the same story here in defense. It doesn't matter how many points you can put up. You can put up 140 points, but if you're going to give up 143 points, you're still going to lose the game. Defense isn't the name of the game. It's a two-way sport. We're going to have to cut it to a real quick break here on Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy. When we get back, we're going to be talking some more Nuggets. Catch us right here on Go Mile High.
There's a side of aloha with every meal at L&L Hawaiian Barbecue. A unique style of Hawaiian place with 2 scoops of rice and a creamy macaroni salad. It's delicious for the whole family. Join our ohana or come party with catering and get the goods like recipe books, hats, and gift cards. Go to our 2 convenient locations in Aurora or one in the Springs. Or you can order online at hawaiianbarbecue.com. L&L Hawaiian Barbecue.
It's back. The $12.99 buy one get one only at Olive Garden. Try our creamy fettuccine Alfredo, hearty spaghetti with meat sauce, or our melty 5-cheese baked ziti. While you're at it, make sure you take a second entree home. With so many choices, how can you go wrong? And don't forget about our endless salads and warm breadsticks. Order online or find one of our convenient locations near you. Olive Garden. When you're here, your family. Your summer just got hotter with the $4.99 unlimited buffet at Pizza Hut. That's right, all of your Pizza Hut favorites for only $4.99. Monday through Friday for lunch, and Tuesday night, dive into limitless pizzas, pastas, salads, breadsticks, and desserts. All hot, fresh, and ready for you when you are. So much good food for so little money makes satisfying that Pizza Hut craving so easy. The $4.99 Pizza Hut never-ending buffet, all at a great price and ready for you today. Make it great at Pizza Hut.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
$30 seconds. I'm on right now. I don't believe you.
And thank you, Ron Burgundy, to always, doing our checks right there to make sure that we're live. But we teased a little bit of, basketball, but we're actually going to get into a little bit more of baseball and hockey. And the NHL playoffs started tonight with the first game kicking off being the Columbus Blue Jackets and as well as the Tampa Bay Lightning going into 5 overtimes. The game ended up being 3-2 with the Tampa Bay Lightning just barely squeaking out the game. And they had to eventually actually postpone the Carolina Hurricanes and Boston Bruins game that was scheduled for the same venue and postpone it till tomorrow because of the 5 overtimes that happened with the game.
Yeah, and so in that game, Jonas Carpasalo, I don't want to say I butchered that name. That's kind of a thing we do on this show, is just butcher names.
Well, at least the hockey names we butcher.
Yeah, but the goalie for, I think it was the Capitals would say, was it? Either or, we'll get that up. The goalie for, was it the Lightning or the Blue Jackets?
The Blue Jackets.
Blue Jackets, yeah. He had a new in-game record with 74 saves, actually 85. He surpassed 73, which was set back in 1987. But it just shows how long this game went, man. That went about 5-6 hours. This dude had damn near, he surpassed the record that was set 30 years ago by 10 saves.
Well, if I was a fan, I've been enjoying this because I'm like, I paid for a 2.5-hour game. I get an extra couple-hour game, and not only that, but usually they stop serving like halfway through the third period. I guarantee you they start serving again at that beginning of that overtime period. So it's like, hey, I get more beer, get to enjoy some hockey. Win-win for me.
Yeah, they're gonna have to implement some beer drinking rules for games that go on extra periods like that.
Yeah, going to quadruple overtimes. It's like, what are you going to have to do about that? It's like, you still got to serve the beer.
Fortunately, there were no fans. Unfortunately, there were no
unfortunately.
fans. Yeah. But I mean, fortunately, because drunk fans in a 5 overtime period, five overtimes being played doesn't seem like the recipe that would be, recipe for
and
success.
One overtime play with drunk fans doesn't seem like the recipe for success.
No, not at all. But it would be good entertainment.
But moving on, the next game was the Calgary Flames taking on the Dallas Stars. The Flames defeated the Stars 3-2 to give the Calgary a 1-0 lead. And then as well as the game that kicks off in about 3 minutes, which is the Chicago Blackhawks versus the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And that is, again, at 8:30, which we will be tipping off to that game in a little bit to be watching that game. So, but moving on to the MLB, the Rockies, which have been starting off very hot this year, lost yesterday to their division rival, Arizona Diamondbacks, 8-12. And right now, actually, a current update, the Rockies are up 2-1 at the top of the 6th inning with it actually just hit mid-6th inning with them up 2-1. So the Rockies currently are right now up 2-1. Hopefully they can bounce back from their loss yesterday.
Last night's game, Rockies game, was actually a really good, interesting game down the wire. The Rockies did lose by 4 runs, but there was a point in the 9th inning where the Rockies were down 7-12, bases loaded, no outs, and they only ended up getting only 1 run as they did finish 8-12 against the D-backs. But tonight, Kyle Freeland versus Zach Gallen, it's a 1-2 score. Hopefully the Rockies can get that, that spark that they had going. Now it's a shorter game, a lower scoring game that they've had. Yesterday they gave up 12 runs. That's the first time the Rockies have given double-digit runs all season long. And so with a team that has been known for terrible pitching the last year, they had a dismal season last year, losing 91 games because of their terrible pitching. This is the kind of start you need.
And if I were to tell any Rockies fan that 16, 17 games in that they would be 11-5 and that their worst game that they would have played against was the Arizona Diamondbacks, they would have probably called me crazy. But this just shows, with this asterisk year that we have, the COVID Cup, anything is possible. We were talking about that on the press box. We were talking about on Rush Hour the last 2 or 3 months. Anything is possible. We could see a situation where the San Diego Padres win it or the Miami Marlins.
And
so
before the show, I was actually reading an article from CBS Sports from, I think it's Dane Perry, and he gave out 4 reasons of why the Rockies are legitimate contenders. And one of the reasons, I just want to touch on and tell everybody was the reason why they're contenders is the hot start that matters in the shortened season is one of the reasons he brought up. And, this is something I've been agreeing on. When you're playing a 60-game season, winning 11 games, right now you're winning. If this was 162 game season, the Rockies would be on pace to win 111 games right now. Now the Rockies, we know the history of them being how.
And this is a team that lost over 100 games last year.
They 91.
My bad. 91.
Yeah, no, but still, you might as well buy 100.
Close.
You might as well. But when you only have 60 games, with your 11-5 right now, you played 16. You played a third of the season. Right now, getting on a hot start, this is the start you needed. And also another reason he brought up is the Rockies have had success with this roster since from the 2017 season. The Rockies still have their top 4 WAR guys from the 2017 season. Then that's Nolan, Blackman, Marquez, and Freeman. So it's not like this is a roster that's drastically changed. It's a roster that hasn't really improved. Reasoning why Nolan Arenado showed frustration with Jeff Bridich, who why he wanted to move on. But you still have had success with this roster. Now you've not probably gotten any better, but you're still, I would say, able to find yourself in the postseason, especially when you have 16 teams making the postseason this year. To
be adding off onto that, Charles Blackmon, who started off the season cold, is on a hot streak right now. He's batting, I believe, at 4.82. I believe I heard on Nate Kreckman and Andy Lindahl. He's almost batting
4.82.
4.82. He's something crazy like that.
And that's a real good batting average.
That's what I'm saying.
No, but, this is the thing kind of with Charlie Blackmon. Same thing with Nolan Arenado. These guys start off kind of shaky, and then they get on a little hitting streak, and then it brings their numbers up. They're going to be fine. I think what is going to be key with the Rockies is it's got to be the pitching, and the pitching has stepped up with Herman. John Gray obviously had a terrible performance last year, probably the worst performance any starter has had this year.
Get this. His batting average right now is a .484. .484 Charles
good.
Blackman's batting.
Man,
That's insane.
Out of this
That's
world.
Like every other time you walk up to the plate, you're hitting a ball, basically.
You know what I'm saying? So how Nolan has the slow starts, Blackman seems to has those hot, fast starts, and then he kind of simmers it down a little bit, brings him back to a reality kind of numbers opposed to his PlayStation numbers.
If he could keep this up, that's insane. I mean, I don't know what the record is for the best batting average throughout the season. I have to pull that up real quick.
It's more likely to keep up a .400 batting average in a 16-game season than it is a 162-game season. So he has that in his for him working out. He definitely on track for that, hopefully. But everyone knows the X factor has been Matt Kemp.
So outfielder Ty Cobb has ended his career with the best batting average in 1928, which was .366 over his career.
That's when nobodies were pitching though. That's when they were picking up guys like me and you, just working at the grocery store or something. Just, hey, you want to come pitch for the team? And
I pulled up the best one for a season is Hugh Duffy, and his best batting average was .4397.
Do you notice a trend though? Like when those guys had those crazy batting average years?
A long time ago.
You know what I'm saying? There's a reason for that. There's a reason why we haven't seen numbers like that in recent history. And that's why it's crazy that we're seeing, let alone a Rocky do it. It's insane. And no, Matt Kemp, though, he's been the X factor for this squad. Nolan was shaking up. There's been some guys who've not had the best performances, and then you put Matt Kemp in there, and then he seems to have it all work. So definitely having a lot of offensive firepower on this squad is helping out. And with the pitching room getting back to what it was, last year was a year of, mishaps. Seemed like they took a year off, but now it seems like they got back to it. And Bud Black, who former pitcher, he knows how important pitching is, and hopefully we can find the Rockies in their third postseason in the last 4 years by the end of the year.
Hopefully we can. But we're going to have to take a real quick break here with Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy. When we get back, we have 3 bold predictions for the Broncos in 2020. Hear what they are after the break.
Every day, across this country, hundreds of college radio stations take to the air, broadcasting music and programming that you won't hear anywhere else.
It's one of the last places where people can really be able to actually say what they want to say.
Without it, you wouldn't have a place for local artists to perform. Certain people need to have a fighting chance, and college radio is that place for it.
College radio changes the lives of those who are involved with it, and can change those who listen to it too.
This is where we start out, from getting all this great experience working in college radio. It makes you want to work in real radio.
College radio means finding yourself. It helped me find what I wanted to do in not only school but in life.
So support college radio by continuing to listen to this station and supporting the students who make it happen. College radio, now, more than ever. A message brought to you by this station and the College Radio Foundation. For more information, please visit collegeradio.org.
Go Mile High, your college radio for sports, movies, and games. Run by students, for students, and more.
Let's see what they can do here from the 5.
Sports news, live games, and discussions about just about everything.
Disney turning their rides in their parks into movies.
So close so many times, and to have that snatched away.
Come and join us every day for your favorite shows, only at GoMileHigh.com.
Hey Colorado sports fans, you're listening to GoMileHigh.com, a student-operated station live from the Colorado Media School studios here in Belmar, giving you a different perspective on all things current.
Stop torturing yourself, man! Live in the now!
So stay tuned to see what's coming up next on GoMileHigh.com, Colorado's sports lifestyle.
Showing!
So I'm taking a trip over to Tibet, see the sights, climb a hill or two. But I remember, oh man, I got one guy out here who I actually know. So I give an old ringy-dingy to the Lama. What? The Dalai Lama, his laminescence, flowing robes, grace, bald, striking really. I says to the Lama, hey, you remember that round I caddied for you down in Shangri-La? Well, apparently some station out in Lakewood taped the whole thing. See, the Lama's a big hitter. Nailed 2 eagles in a row that day. Well, he says, what station could have possibly gotten all the way out to my sacred holy lands, the Shangri? I says it was none other than GoMileHigh.com. Llama. They got the best sports coverage in the state. The llama actually tips me this time, 2-1. So he pretty much stiffed me again, but I got him hooked on GoMileHigh.com, so I got that going for me, which is nice.
That's great.
GoMileHigh.com.
Well, there's tremendous buzz that we think circulating around the Denver Broncos. Obviously, the way that Drew Lock finished off the 2019 season going 4-1 in those 5 starts. And then when you add to what they did during the NFL draft and landing receivers of the quality of Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, a prototypical slot receiver who can burn with 4.3 speed, you throw in Noah Fant, the exceptional season had by Cortland Sutton 1 year ago. Now you see the product around Drew Lock becoming really favorable for success. So there's a lot of excitement with this football team. And I think if you dive even deeper and look at some of the additions on defense, I think you can become even more excited.
And thank you to CBS Sports and more specifically Solomon Thomas for that piece. And that's from a national perspective, and that's from a national standpoint of how excited. Again, he's a Denver homer, former CU player, but how excited the national media is for the Broncos and how excited they are for a young Drew Lock and a defense that's been building weapons, who really hasn't really slouched the last couple of years. It's been the same defense in Denver. I mean, we all know what the defense that they're going to bring in Denver as, but what this offense can potentially bring, and we all know in Denver they're used to seeing winning. They're used to seeing a winning culture around here.
I'm gonna actually take that back with what you said. I don't know. We know that the defense is what they're gonna do, but we don't know exactly what they're gonna bring. This is a big different cast of members. You have no Chris Harris Jr. Von Miller's the only defensive player on there from that Super Bowl 50 team. You have new leadership in Justin Simmons, who's stepping up from being the guy who learning from the vet, who is now he's the vet back there. You have AJ Boye, who is your vet, but it's his first year on the team, so he doesn't have the chemistry as you would expect a vet would with other guys. Him coming on the new team, you got Jarrell Casey on your front defensive line. This is a team, and I'm not saying it's going to be a bad defense. It's just you don't know what this defense has looked like before with these different personnel pieces implemented in.
And adding off onto that, 3 bold predictions. This is also wrote by a CBS writer, Patrick Walker. 3 bold predictions. Bradley Chubb gets 15 sacks and a Pro Bowl nod. Von Miller, career high mark in sacks. And Drew Lock surpasses 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. Now I'm going to add in my predictions. I'm going to predict that the Drew Lock one is good, and as well as the Bradley Chubb one. I'm going to predict those 2 are going to happen. But Von Miller, sack leader next year with all those.
That was going to be my one. That's a hot take, man.
That was a hot. Yeah.
I'm not saying Von's not going to have a great year, but he's on the back half of 30.
And even then, I'm looking at like Chubb. I'm looking at Jarrell Casey. I'm looking at Malik Reed. There's just so much pass rush opportunity for the Broncos on the team. It's just, and also you already heard, on the top 100, players were saying Von's going to be put in a lot of different situations. He's not just going to be putting in pass rush situations next year. They're going to be using him all over the field, and that's what Vic Fangio wants to do in his defense with Von Miller.
No, well, here's my hot take, and here's my bold prediction that Noah Fant in year 2 will be the best tight end in the NFL. You got everyone already knows about Jerry Jeudy's crazy route running speed. They're going to have a lot of eyes on him. Cortland Sutton's going to draw a lot of double coverages. Noah Fant, man, he's a big target. Not the best blocking tight end. Maybe, all right, we may be top 5. Top 5. He's not the best blocking, all right? I'm putting him over George Kittle and Travis Kelce. I forgot about those guys out there. We'll put Noah Fant top 5 because he does need to work on that blocking. I understand that. But him as a receiving threat is going to be a problem. And if he can get that blocking up, you can put him in that conversation with the George Kittles and Travis Kelce's. I don't know if you can put him in that Gronkowski conversation. That's a whole different being in itself.
Speaking of Noah Fant, there's a guy here in Colorado that's very high on this offense here in Denver.
John Elway brought in some talent for Drew Lock to throw to, and so
some of their success will depend on how quickly they develop. Love the competition at running back. You know, with the addition of Melvin Gordon, Philip Lindsay is not going to let anybody exhale at all. There's going to be competition there all year, which I like. I think helps the team. Obviously, Fant, I think with another year can do some big things at the tight end position. The question for me on offense is that offensive line. And so I think that, you know, the team will go as far offensively as that offensive line allows them to go.
And again, thank you to CBS Sports and Ed McCaffrey for that piece on talking about the Broncos' upcoming year. But yeah, we all know what the Broncos, you know, defense, like I said, you know, or what we expect what they're going to bring. But that offense is what's really intriguing. You know, we have a lot of young weapons and you have a lot of young players that you don't know exactly what they're going to bring. You don't know exactly what they're going to have. And especially with the short off season, no real padded practices, no real preseason, it's going to be really just thrown into the fire week one.
I mean, you know what they're going to bring in a small sample size. What are they going to bring in the length of a 16-game season? Now, it's the kind of thing with every rookie they come to the league. The college football season is only 12 games, 13 if you make a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
So, playing 16 and being consistent over a 16-game season, the schedule is, definitely going to be the challenge. We saw Noah Fant had some flashes. We also saw that there were some inconsistent games, yet he did have Brandon Allen, Joe Flacco throwing him the ball. Some of his best games came down the stretch when Drew Lock was passing him the ball. So we're having Drew Lock being his quarterback throughout the entire year. Man, come on now. Not just Fant's going to flourish. Cortland Sutton's going to flourish. This will be the first year, I think, Cortland Sutton, if Drew Lock, stays healthy. You always got to have that injury always in mind. But if able to stay healthy, Cortland Sutton will arguably have his best season to come.
And I really liked what he said about the Philip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon debate. We've been debating that for a while. I'm sure not a lot of Broncos fans are the happiest about that, but you already know what Melvin Gordon can bring out of the backfield, and you already know that Melvin Gordon's a proven running back. So you get a proven running back in the backfield, and then as well as you get a running back that has less miles on his tread that can run the ball. He's a hard runner.
A proven running back, but you have a frustrated Philip Lindsay. And I don't know if that's what you really want. I don't know if you heard what Philip Lindsay said today through some virtual Zoom conference meetings. But Lindsay said, if they don't want to have, one of their playmakers on the field when they need them, speaking to himself, then, that's on them. That's on the team. But, and, Melvin Gordon, that. But Philip Lindsay, man, come on, he's been proven. He's been proven to where he can still be the number one. Yeah, I know you're going to bring up, Gordon, the receiving game, this, that. But Philip Lindsay hasn't had the opportunity to flourish in the receiving game the way Melvin Gordon has, playing with Phillip Rivers for his entire career. Compared to Philip Lindsay, who's the quarterbacks he's had to play with? He's had to play with like 3 different quarterbacks in 2 years. 4.
Yeah, but again, you also got to look at, even though those quarterbacks weren't good, they're still scheming this, teams to throw short, and they're still scheming to throw intermediate. And even then, Philip Lindsay was those receiving running backs on those teams, and he still didn't show enough to, yonder that title as an all-around back. We all know that Melvin Gordon, he can score 10-plus touchdowns in the red zone. We all know what he can do at the backfield.
Austin Eckler took his job.
Austin Eckler took his job because he, didn't want to get paid more money.
I'm not a big fan of the Melvin Gordon move. Yeah, you bring it in, but you bring in someone else who, Philip Lindsay's going to get a lot more targets with the quarterback who is competent enough to find those coverages and read the flats. He didn't have a competent enough quarterback. He didn't have an experienced quarterback like Phillip Rivers, like the IQ that Phillip Rivers has. That's why Melvin Gordon was getting all those targets, and it made his numbers look real good.
Also, another reason is, they have a lot of receivers out in the back, so that could be another situation there. But it could also see a situation where, they looked at the Broncos and they're like, well, we have a lot of good young talent. We have all these players around here. We want to see what they can do with the receiving running back that goes out the backfield. With everyone else is covered, he's going to catch it, get that 5-yard, hitch, or get that 5-yard under, or get that 5-yard wheel route. But anyway, this is Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy. We're going to have to take a real quick break, but when we get back onto the break, we're going to revisit some of the little bit more stuff that we talked about with the Broncos. This is Sports with Staxxx and Shaggy.
Whether you're kicking up your feet in a comfy dinner room or sipping on cocktails down by the river, you're sure to have a great time. Enjoy fishing, hiking, and hunting, all with the comforts of walk-in showers, private balconies overlooking the beautiful Cacharas River and mountain, and breakfast cooked fresh daily by the loving hands of the owner, Galen Smith. If you get hungry in the afternoon or evening, grab a cold one, good company, and come out on the deck. Or you can come stay at the famous Dog Bar and Grill, just a stone's throw from the B&B. Book your room now at CacharasRiverBnB.com. That's CUCHARAS RiverBnB.com. Cacharas River Bed and Breakfast. Tell them Arthur sent you.
It's back. The $12.99 buy one get one only at Olive Garden. Try our creamy fettuccine Alfredo, hearty spaghetti with meat sauce, or our melty 5-cheese baked ziti. While you're at it, make sure you take a second entree home. With so many choices, how can you go wrong? And don't forget about our endless salads and warm breadsticks. Order online or find one of our convenient locations near you. Olive Garden. When you're here, you're family.
There's a side of aloha with every meal at L&L Hawaiian Barbecue. A unique style of Hawaiian place with 2 scoops of rice and a cream macaroni salad. It's delicious for the whole family. Join our ohana or come party with catering and get the goods like recipe books, hats, and gift cards. Come to our 2 convenient locations in Aurora or one in the Springs. Or you can order online at HawaiianBarbecue.com. L&L Hawaiian Barbecue.
If you have ever dreamed about being on TV or the radio, listen up. Start your broadcasting career today at the Colorado Media School. You'll have the opportunity to work with and learn from actual on-air talent that work within the Colorado media. Within a few months, you'll know how to engineer, produce, and even host your own TV/radio show. I'm a current graduate, and let me tell you, the Colorado Media School has given me opportunities and internships that have helped me take my career to the next level. So apply today at the Colorado Media School, located at 404 South Uppan Street in Lakewood, or visit us at coloradomediaschool.org.
Look at this Denver Broncos team. If you believe in Drew Lock, this is an easy over. If you don't believe he's the answer at quarterback, they don't come anywhere close to exceeding their win total. And what's crazy about Drew Lock, given all the optimism coming into this season, you look at some of his numbers. Yards per game were lower than Joe Flacco. Completion percentage lower than Joe Flacco. Yards per completion also lower. I think he became the beneficiary of a soft schedule.
And thank you to TBS Sports for that sound, Todd Kerman, talking about how he's not very high on the Broncos. And it seems like it's going back and forth. Like, you have some players that are very high, or some, analysts that are very high on Drew Lock, and you have some analysts that just don't believe that that 5-game sample last year was enough. I mean, he beat a playoff team last year in a very formidable one, 31-3. They were up against the Texans. So it's crazy to think. I don't know. He's probably he's definitely the second best quarterback out of last year's draft. I mean, I'd take him over Dwayne Haskins and Daniel Jones. Still not taking him over my man Kyler Murray. But. And
I think the worst thing that Todd Furman, just from his commentary on it, is how he was trying to compare Drew Lock's stats to Flacco. Oh, Flacco has a better completion percentage, this, that. Well, when you're a conservative quarterback and you only make, 2-yard completions, then you tend to have a better completion percentage.
Even then, if
when you're scared to move the ball down the field.
If you think about it, this Broncos team, they didn't have really many weapons outside of Cortland Sutton and Phillip Lindsay last year. I mean, Noah Fant came into his own, like you said, when Drew Lock started throwing him the ball. Mm-hmm. There wasn't really a legitimate weapon out there. Offensive line struggles. You already had, you knew what the defense was struggling with the whole first 4 weeks of the season. Couldn't get a sack for the first 4 weeks of the season up until they played against Jacksonville. I mean, there were struggles that were going on throughout the whole entire season. It wasn't just the quarterback. If anything, Drew Lock made the team better. His sack percentage was the lowest percentage of qualified quarterbacks compared to Joe Flacco and Brandon Allen being some of the highest percentages, which is, about 7% compared to a 3%, which was Drew Lock's, sack percentage. Drew Lock got the ball out very, accurately, despite a porous offensive line. And not only that, but not many weapons around him. I mean, name Cortland Sutton last year. I mean, yeah, he was a good receiver, but he wasn't a solidified number one last year. He was coming into his own last year.
Coming into his own for sure. Coming in this year, could he be a solidified number one?
Oh, easily.
Easily, but you do got Jerry Jeudy there. Could they share just the touches? I mean, you don't know who's going to be number one, number two. Jerry Jeudy is the rookie, so you want to at least give Cortland the nod. Like, yeah, man, you've been here longer. You're in that young wide receiver core, you're the vet, so you're going to be the number one. But, Jerry Jeudy, I think he could be just as deserving as, to get as many targets. Now, we haven't seen, what, he's done in an NFL game, but the way his route running and how smooth he is, man, route running is one of the most important attributes a wide receiver needs if you're not the most physical, because that route running is going to get you, open. That's what gets you open, create space.
And he's a receiver that can play on the inside and on the out. He can play slot and he can play on the out. So the Broncos literally have two weapons that they can put in and out. It really, puts the X factor, which we were talking about with Cody Rourke. Who's going to be that solidified third receiver? Is it going to be that KJ Hamler, or is it going to be that Deshaun Hamilton, or is it going to be that Tim Patrick? Who's going to be that third option for that receiving core?
I'm big on Tim Patrick. And just where it's depending on where he plays. I'm big on Tim Patrick when he plays on the outside. When he's playing on the inside, 6'4", 6'5", he's a big target. Middle linebackers, dudes are going to look to crack him when if he's going to be targeting the inside in that slot position.
Yeah, so, KJ Hamler's going to run right by them.
Yeah, and Tim Patrick, I don't know. Tim Patrick's not the most fastest guy. He's not the most physical guy. He's just really tall, just really, really tall, man. And so I could see him just really on the outside. And I'm real big on Tim Patrick because he does get a lot of those, those 50-50 balls, but he's not going to outmuscle a 50-50 ball the way Cortland Sutton does. He's going to have to outreach those guys.
And just to add off onto that, his 40 time was a 4.47, but he had a vertical jump of a 37.5. So he can go up and he can leap up to get those tall, hard balls to get. He's not, like I said, the fastest receiver, but he can still run at adamant speed and go and get those 50-50 balls. Mm-hmm. So Cody Rourke actually even said, I love to see a situation where they're targeting him or Noah Fant in the red zone. Two great red zone opportunity or two great red zone, threats. And I'm high on Melvin Gordon. I want to see what they can do with Melvin Gordon in the red zone. I got to see what he could do for the Chargers for the last 4 years, and that's, he was one of their major red zone threats.
Big red zone guy. I mean, he was, a couple years ago had like the highest percentage scoring in the red zone or whatnot before he tried to hold out and all that saga. I'm not opposed to giving Melvin Gordon, the touches. You're paying him $8 million a year. Give him what he's worth. I'm just disappointed that you went out and paid this guy when you have a solidified number one in Phillip Lindsay, who, I think he can. He's an all-around back, I honestly think. I think you compared him somewhat of a Alvin Kamara, more of a tougher Alvin Kamara, if anything. Today said he gained 10 pounds of muscle over the offseason. I just think, through his young career, hasn't had the opportunity to play with a very talented, above-average quarterback. So I want to see what Phillip Lindsay can do in the receiving game. But adding to your point, Melvin Gordon, that can take away some of Lindsay's production because signing Melvin Gordon, he's gonna go out there and you signed him for a reason.
You said that Lindsay reminds you of Alvin Kamara?
Yeah.
I feel like it's more like a Fred Taylor for me.
Fred Taylor?
Yeah.
I mean, Alvin Kamara, the reason why I say that is because Kamara is way faster than Lindsay, for sure. Mm-hmm. Better in the receiving game. But those guys have like I don't know, man. When they get in the open field, they just have a strut about them.
And that's what I'm saying of Fred Taylor. He reminds me of the Fred Taylor. Maybe it's the size and the body type, but it's like, or even then a Maurice Jones-Drew, you know?
Oh, no. Jones-Drew is like a muscle, like a Doug Martin. Jones-Drew is like a Doug Martin, man.
Yeah, but he could also juke you out and he could also spin you out.
But Jones-Drew, how tall? 5'6", 5'5"?
5'6", yeah. He's shorter than all of us.
And he was a beast, though, because he was like a power back in the small back body.
A bowling ball.
Yeah, no. But we're having Melvin Gordon back there. I don't know if it improves the Broncos. It's gonna see what kind of the chemistry is going to develop. Is Phillip Lindsay going to work with it, or is he gonna show frustration because he knows that he's deserving of more reps than what he's going to get?
And also, not only this, but I mean, think about this: you have a angry Philip Lindsay going into the season. With Melvin Gordon getting the starting running back touches, every time Philip Lindsay is going to touch the field, he's going to be running hard. He's going to be running angry. He's going to be running like he wants to fight for that first job still. And that's what you want. You want him to be running like that. You want him to be running like he still is fighting for that job. Because every time he gets out there, it's going to be, maybe like 5, 6, 7 yards a clip, and you're gonna, you want to keep feeding him the ball more, and it's gonna give him more chances to get him out there instead of, Gordon.
As Broncos country, I think it'd be a hard pill to swallow and a hard sacrifice if Melvin Gordon just starts having a better year than Lindsay, and then they start giving Gordon the better, more touches. Because if Lindsay is his contract year, I think he's maybe next year might be his contract year.
This is his contract year, I believe.
So if Melvin Gordon just has a way better season than Lindsay, where it's just obviously that he's higher on the depth chart. It'd be funny to be playing a 2-back system by that point. I hope that doesn't happen. I'm honestly cheering that Lindsay becomes the better of the two, or has the better season between the two. But say Melvin Gordon does, Philip Lindsay could be on his way out, and I don't know how many Bronco fans are going to be, how that's going to make him feel, because everyone loves Philip Lindsay out here just because hearing his story, his local story, a local product, asking Terrell Davis to wear his number, all that. But when you got a guy like Melvin Gordon who has a track record of being disloyal, it kind of puts the Broncos in a tough position, because you re-signed the young local guy who wants to play for his local team, but didn't have as good as this other guy did, who is known for being disloyal.
And this is, adding off of what we were saying earlier, this is his last season. Next year he will be a restricted free agent. So this is a prove-it year for him. And, Melvin Gordon already got a 2-year contract. So Melvin Gordon's already tied up with the Broncos for at least this year and next year. So this is really a prove-it year for Lindsay, and as well as, Royce Freeman. What are they, those situations for those two running backs? Two running backs that got taken in the 2018 draft and undrafted in the 2018 draft. So two running backs that are, now seeing what their, worth is now in the NFL. But we're going to have to finish up tonight with sports with Staxxx and Shaggy. We had a good episode, 20, but catch us again tomorrow from 8 to 9. This is Go Mile High.